Posy Gloves here. I'm wearing a hat, and today I'm going to be showing you how to generate vocal harmonies that you never actually sang, or that the other person didn't ever sing, the person who recorded. And they would sound, at the end of the day, something like this.
We'll sail away from here to a place that's near and dear. See out your window for the first time. Blue skies and oceans combined.
So anyways, you get the idea. So these harmonies right here, I never actually sang. This is my original take. So let's really quick run down what happened here. So I had this original take, right?
We'll sail away from here to a place that's near and dear.
So you see, I'm like, oh yeah, that's gold. And so I took that and tuned it.
We'll sail away from here to a place.
Of course, I have some mixing going on. We're not going to bother really looking at the mixing. And then I added a harmony.
We'll sail away from here.
And that all came from that first vocal stem. So the question is, how do you add harmonies? Now, I use NewTone as my principal editor. I'm going to put a link in the description that takes you to my NewTone series, and I go through like how to tune, how to use NewTone, how to configure it to play back the way you want it to, because that's freaking annoying. So I cover all that stuff. I'm going to put it down below. What we're going to be looking at is solely, I'm going to assume you know how to use NewTone, what it is, and we're just going to be making some harmonies. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to mute this one because this is the one I already made. And this isn't necessarily going to sound great because I've sort of forgotten the chords I'm working with, but it shouldn't be too hard. And what we're going to do is the reason I like using NewTone for this is the way it plays back with it is really nice, but also its algorithm, I quite like it. It's very easy to work with, very straightforward. Anyways, I'll show you. Let's just get into it. So I'm going to link it up. So now it'll play back. You see that my cursor will now control where it is in here. So, oh, I have to make a selection first. Okay, make your selection first. Totally forgot about that. So now as I move it around, you see it's playing back. So like here's bar 1, it's on bar 1, bar 2. So it's relative to my selection. And we're going to go ahead and play it back. And these two are going to play in sync. So this is just going to sound twice as loud since it's the same thing. I actually quite like the chorusing effect you can get out of this. We'll talk about doubling and chorusing and stuff later. Let's stay focused on the harmonies.
We'll sail away from here to a place that.
Okay, so we have that, right? Now let's go ahead and just make some harmonies. And we're going to look at a couple song examples of this. This isn't the only one we're going to look at. So we're going to take this and I'm going to make this, right now we're on a C, so an E you probably jam pretty well with this. And so let's just give that a listen.
We'll sail away from here.
And I'm like, hey, that doesn't sound too bad. And then we have an A right here. So, this might sound okay as a C. This one might sound, this is another E, or another C, I mean. So we could change that to an E. And I'm just guessing that we're working with C major here, but that was an A. So maybe it's, I don't know what the A was for. But anyways, let's do this.
We'll sail away from here.
And now I have this sort of moving line. And let's go ahead and let's see what we have. So we have 2 more A's. And we have another C. So let's just go ahead and move this up. Just these 3. Let's move these up to C. And I'm leaving everything alone. You can try changing the centered pitch and the variation depending on how good your vocal is. And then here, we might consider merging notes, but I'm going to go ahead and leave them the same. And just, I'm going to move. Let's just move this one. And see what that sounds like. That's sort of an interesting move.
We'll sail away from here.
So, okay, that wasn't that great of a move, but you get the idea. So maybe we can move this up. Whoops, I don't want to do a form and shift. You have to hit the undo button in NewTone to do that. And let's go ahead. Oh, there's a dog scratching on my door. Okay, let's do this.
We'll sail away from here.
So, maybe that's what you want. Maybe in this case, I'd probably go back to the E. Just keep it really up and down, up and down.
We'll sail away from here to a place that's near.
And so you go through and you just edit your stuff. You may occasionally need to do stuff like this. So you see this right here. This is all a mess. You can join notes. And if we zoom in here, if we just hit, so shift is cut, alt shift is join. So you select them and it joins them. And that could be really, really useful when you're moving them up and down. So that is my 2 cents on how you use NewTone to create some vocals. Let's go ahead and take a look at some other examples. Oh, and this is the one I settled on. This was the harmony that I thought was cool.
We'll sail sail away from here to a place that's near and dear. See out your window for the first time.
So you see, it's quite an extreme. I actually brought them up quite a bit. And so you can pitch them around quite a bit. And when they play them by themselves, they might sound a little funny. But sometimes you'd be surprised at how well it merges when you play it back with the original. It becomes the actual harmony. So I prefer to have things working in real time so that I can adjust things and hear it in context. Because sometimes by itself,
See out your window for the first time.
see, it can sound quite weird. But in context,
For the first time.
it sounds pretty cool. So I dug that. Now let's go ahead and look at another example. All right, so this track is called Explore the Universe. It's from my drum and bass series, and in it, I have some vocals. There are some here. We're going to look at the vocals over here. And it's another case of where I generated some harmonies to create a really interesting movement instead of a single line vocal. So I'm going to go ahead and start playing. It is a little bit loud, so in 3, 2, actually this is the mix down. So this doesn't have anything in the mastering chain. Whoops. So we hit F9. So you can see everything's been mixed. So this actually might be kind of soft. So anyways, 3, 2, 1.
Shooting,
Let's go back a little bit.
shooting stars fly on by in the sky where you're meant to be. Gravity is chained to your core. Will you be free? Break the chain.
So you see there's quite a bit. Let's turn that off. It'll go away eventually. So here I have this big moving note, and that's the main reason why I wanted to show you this, was just how smooth this can get. So right here, we've got just our general tuning, and let me see if I have a NewTone. I do. I have NewTones labeled. And you have to open them twice for the vocal to show up sometimes. And so here I flatten my voice out pretty hardcore. Obviously, I'm not going for like super realistic realism, and what it ends up sounding like is like this.
Shooting stars fly on by.
So this is obviously I've taken the original, I've tuned it, and this is now the harmony part. And this harmony part sounds pretty wild by itself. And at the end, this is the part that goes, this is that big long note. And now here, I did go through and I made some chops and moved things around. And these pitch bends, if we double click on a note, these are mega important. So I could do something like that. And that could or could not be a cool effect. That I preferred obviously the short ones. In the context, this is what it sounded like. So this is big long fat note over here. So when you're singing, you can really get a really cool glide effect. And I just want to show you that in your harmonies. That is totally a doable thing. It all depends on just the way you treat it in NewTone. And so here, it came in on one. It's kind of interesting to see where it thought the note was, because I'm like singing up. So you want to be careful about your variation. On the NewTone 2, is this the, whoops, I need to see the vocal, please. Oh, another weird thing that it didn't used to do, if you're on another channel and you hover over a NewTone, it'll take you to that channel. I think it's annoying. But anyways, that's something it did not used to do. See, this is just one big fat note. Bam. And so I took it and pitched it up and down all over the map until I got something with some really cool harmony. So it creates a really dynamic moment of interest. So that's this example. It's pretty straightforward. And then I also have one more example. So let's go check that out. All right, so this is my last track. This one is my last track example of this. I use this a lot more, but when we get into vocoders, you'll see alternate methods to creating these harmonies. But doing it through NewTone or Melodyne or whatever it is you use to do this will give you these are the sorts of results you receive. So anyways, this last one is over here. And I'm going to warn you, it is a little loud, but this is also the mix down, and it's like half mixed. It's not done. I've mixed up to like the drop. I have not done anything to the drop yet. I'm thinking about changing some stuff. So it builds up and builds up, and then you hear this singing come in. There's actually 4 parts, and these guys come in on the second part. So let me go ahead and play it for you.
Flight with Gloves Airlines.
So anyways, it's kind of a novel idea. The beginning's it's got its own thing going on. So we're gonna focus on this because we're focusing on harmonies. So here I've got some things and I have some dips going. This is because instead of using a compressor, I just decided to write in the volume curves myself. That way I could de-emphasize this one, have it be full in this one, which isn't so offensive, and then bring them both back up. But this one's a little more complicated. Why? Because there are 4 things going on. So these 2 sound like this. Oh, and it's important that I have these volume envelopes on. They're also panned differently. These guys up here have their volume envelopes actually on top of them, so that's kind of convenient. We want to look at the audio, and they are doing this. Take me away. So without these guys, let's see what it sounds like without them. Take me away. So not near as full. And as soon as we start getting into stuff like this, it can get way more complicated depending on how many layers you do. And what's even better is if you have a whole bunch of vocal takes. Because if you get a whole bunch of vocal takes and layer them together, you can do various levels of this and mix and blend it with the untuned one. And it can start to get very, very complicated. But the point is, I only really ever sing this part. Take me away. That's the only part I ever sang. I added this part. Take me away. And then you put them together. Take me away. And obviously your harmony is probably going to be a little bit softer than your vocal, than your other part. I had originally had this take though, which is kind of an interesting deal. Take me away. Take me. So I was doing that. I didn't like it, so I came up here and did this. But then I was experimenting, got rid of these first parts, turned on these volume curves and faded it in, and it ended up blending super awesomely with these guys. Take me away. So that is all that really was, is just trying to get something that was kind of interesting. And you notice that I tuned them quite differently. I mean, let's see if I can find the NewTone I did this in. I may have done this all in one NewTone, or there may be another one scattered somewhere. But anyways, this is the thing I had to work with. Take me away. And then after that, you go ahead and you send it through your vocal processing stuff, which is right here. And you see that there's a parametric EQ. It's got a little bump in it, some reverb, quite a severe thing if we take the reverb out. Take me away. So the reverb's a huge part of this sound. Take me away. We got some chorus going on, which is it's adding its own little thing. If we take that away. Take me away. I'm kind of a fan of it not being there, and at the same time, I'm a fan of it being there. So that's still up in the air. And then I have a stereo shaper and a little bit of compression going on as needed when it becomes a little bit of a problem. Except for this one area I was having a hard time doing, so I went ahead and just drew in my own curves. And these guys aren't even happening right there because they're completely different notes. If I try playing all of them at the same time and turn these guys off, it sounds like a mess. Take me away. It sounds really, really cool, but a lot of people won't jive with that, and I liked it better like this. But I do like the chords that they form. So you can form some really, really dense things. You can go a lot more complicated than anything I've done here. But later on, we start tossing vocoders into the mix, and then you start really opening up your horizons to different things that you can really touch and manipulate. But this is one of the funnest things you can really do with a vocal is take it, tune it, and then write in harmonies. Like, if you know just how to do those things, you can make such cool vocal lines. So that's that. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe. Support me on Patreon because it lets me make content like this. And I'm always willing to listen to your suggestions on what you think I should do. And have a blessed day.
It's